The Firehouse Light. A long time ago, when horse-drawn buggies delivered ice to keep food cold and laundry dried on ropes in the sun, fires were fought with buckets, axes, and hand-pulled carts with water hoses. In one little town, on a moonless night, a cry rang out, "Fire!" Out of bed, the townspeople leapt. As they lined up in bucket brigades, they lent their voices to the rising cry, "Get the hose cart! Grab the buckets!" Volunteer firefighters ran through the night toward the wooden shack where the firefighting equipment was kept. They threw open the doors, but it was dark inside and hard to see. "Light a lantern," one man yelled. "Hold it high," called another as they reached inside the pitch-black shack, wheeled out the hose cart, and raced to put out the fire. Finding firefighting equipment in the dark was not easy. Then, one day, a businessman gave the firefighters a gift. No longer would they have to waste time lighting lanterns. A wire burning inside a ball of glass would light the way. Day after day, year after year, the light bulb did not burn out. After 10 years, the wooden shack was gone, but the light bulb was not. In a firehouse with walls and windows, the 4-watt light bulb was never turned off. A soft orange light, it glowed no brighter than a handful of fireflies. Beneath the light bulb, firefighters polished the hose cart until it shined. They would be marching in the little town's 4th of July parade. Flags waved, a band played, dogs barked, and children cheered as they marched on newly paved roads past businesses and homes recently wired with electricity. And along with the clopping of horse hooves, a new sound was heard, the loud squeaky honk of a car's horn. Day after day, year after year, the light bulb did not burn out. After 20 years, the light bulb was no longer the brightest in the firehouse. Other bulbs shined brighter during the day, and in the evening, after the sun had set, they illuminated the night. But to the firefighters, the 4-watt bulb was the most important. It burned when they left to fight a fire and was still lit when they returned. No longer was news of a fire spread by cries and shouts. When a fire broke out, townspeople called the telephone switchboard operator. Volunteer firefighters who lived in their own homes and worked at separate jobs heard the town's fire bell ring and knew it was time to stop working on farms and fields and offices and shops. Off they went, not pulling a hose cart, but driving a brand new fire engine with a bell on top. Day after day, year after year, the light bulb did not burn out. After 30 years, cars were driven up and down the streets of the little town. "Careful! Look both ways," firefighters reminded children running to the theater, where they would watch movies on the big picture screen for 25 cents apiece. In the firehouse, a record spun on the record player as firefighters cleaned and inspected their hoses and the gauges, the wheels and the windshields. They checked their boots, their smoke mask, and the tools they carried on their wide belts. Firefighters never knew when a fire would break out, so they needed to be ready. Day after day, year after year, the light bulb did not burn out. After 40 years, trains trumbled in the newly built station, airplanes flew overhead, and firefighters gathered around the radio to hear the day's news. All of a sudden, the siren blared. Beneath a light bulb that glowed strong and steady, firefighters stepped into their big boots, pulled on their heavy coats, put thick helmets on their heads, and switched on their two-way radios. They drove through the growing town's only traffic signal, honking the horn. Instead of fire or smoke, they found a crowd gathered near their tree, pointing at a boy who had climbed too high and couldn't get down. Day after day, year after year, the light bulb did not burn out. After 50 years, the little town was not so little anymore. Families moved into brand new homes and parked their cars in the driveway. And all over town, workers were busy building new schools, hospitals, highways, libraries, and ice cream shops. Firefighters were no longer volunteers. They were paid employees who lived and worked in the firehouse. A refrigerator kept their food cold, and a stove heated it up. They vacuumed with a vacuum cleaner, watched TV on a black and white TV, and at night they slept beneath the glow of the 4-watt light bulb. Day after day, year after year, the light bulb did not burn out. After more than 60 years on television sets across the big town, everyone watched something they had never seen before. A man walking on the moon. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, the light bulb burned strong and steady above the heads of firefighters who practiced, trained, and were always prepared. Day after day, year after year, for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years, the light bulb glowed. But in 1976, it stopped. The firefighters were moving to a new firehouse, but not without their light bulb. The light bulb, the socket, the cord, and the porcelain outlet that attached it to the ceiling were carefully removed. Fire engine lights flashed and sirens blared, flags waved, a band played, dogs barked, and children cheered as the light bulb, the star of the town's parade, was driven to its new home. All eyes were on the electrician as he reconnected the light bulb. Would it light? Would it still glow? A second passed and then another. The bulb did not light. The people held their breath. The light bulb still did not light. The electrician jiggled the switch, and then the bulb, as it always had, flickered and it started to glow. Day after day, year after year, the light bulb did not burn out. After 80 years, the light bulb stood guard over the fire engines from 15 feet above. School children came to the firehouse to learn about fire safety. The men and women who worked as firefighters explained how they raised the ladder on the hook and ladder truck, how they breathe through oxygen masks, and why they wear the fire retardant uniforms. Beneath the glow of a 4-watt bulb, they taught the children to stop, drop, and roll. Day after day, year after year, the light bulb did not burn out. 90 years after the cries of townspeople alerted firefighters and a light bulb helped them find their equipment in the dark, a 911 call could be made and computers would pinpoint the exact location of the emergency call. With sirens blaring and red lights flashing, firefighters, paramedics, and police cars raced down the crowded streets of the city. They raced past the halogen, fluorescent, and incandescent lights, past neon and strobe lights, traffic lights and street lights, motorcycle, car, truck, and bus lights. Driving through the night, help was on the way. Day after day, year after year, the light bulb did not burn out. After 100 years, it was time for a birthday party. The town turned out to celebrate. Television and radio crews set up their gear. Speeches were made, pictures taken, birthday cake eaten, and happy birthday sung to a 100-year-old light bulb that had never once burned out. Strong and steady, it still glows above the heads of firefighters. It burns when they leave to fight a fire, and it stays lit after they return.